Yes, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a brand new video. Mikel Arteta wants a striker this year. It could be done in January, but then if we can't find a solution in January, it is more likely Arsenal will go and sign a striker in the summer. However, in one of Mikel Arteta's press conferences, he actually said that they expected the number of goals to actually drop. They expected the number of goals we are scoring, probably not this drastically, but they expected that Martinelli, Odegaard and Saka were not going to score 15, 15 and 14 like they did last campaign. And that is the big question for me. If we expected Arsenal to go all the way and, drop in terms of goal scoring, why didn't we just sign a number 9? Why didn't we just sign a striker that would have, compensated for the drop-off on Martinelli, for the drop-off, on Saka, for the drop-off on Martin Odegaard as well? Why didn't we just sign a number 9? So Mikel Arteta, in this press conference, we're going to be just playing a little bite. Big up to the different knock. They've actually highlighted this, and I'm absolutely clueless as to why Mikel Arteta anticipated a very, very realistic option, which was Arsenal cannot keep up those levels, and then just not find a good solution for it.
And in terms of that finishing, the guys like Saka, Martinelli, Martin Odegaard, maybe they're not finishing at the level they were previously, maybe last season. Do you think that's just a question of over time it will come back, it fluctuates naturally? Is it confidence? What do you put it down to?
Well, I think what they did last year is exceptional, and to maintain those numbers, we knew that it was going to be extremely difficult because it was a one-off, for us, one-off in the league. So we know that we need other resources and other kind of goals to maintain the levels out there.
Right, so that is Mikel Arteta. He says the question comes in from the Ghana blog, working with the Athletic, and he asked him that there is a drop-off in Martinelli's numbers, in Odegaard's numbers, and these players are struggling to keep up with what they were doing last campaign in terms of finishing, in terms of composure in front of goal, and also in terms of massively outscoring the XG. Now, just to give you perspective, Odegaard, Saka and Gabriel Martinelli all outscored their XG. They scored more goals than they were expected to score last campaign. They scored more goals than the chances, than the clear-cut chances they had last campaign. That is impossible. Clearly impossible. You can't have 4-5 players, overscoring the XG. But Arsenal had it last campaign. And Mikel Arteta, in that press conference, he says, yes, they did, but we didn't expect it to happen again. It was a one-off season. It was a one-off for these players, right? So it was not going to be something we thought, was going to be consistent. We didn't think all these players are going to keep on giving us the same number of goals and the same level of performance every single season. And then that's the question for me, guys. That is the question. If we saw it earlier, if Mikel Arteta and the team saw it earlier, if they knew we were not going to score goals, if they knew there was going to be a problem with keeping Gabriel Martinelli up the top, with keeping Martin Odegaard up the top in terms of scoring goals, why didn't we do anything about it? Why have we waited until January when we know no one is going to sell their striker? Ivan Toney, not for sale. Osimhen, not for sale. Dusan Vlahovic, not for sale. Nakas Thuram, not for sale. Girassi and all these other players, they're not for sale, right? Most clubs are not willing to sell. Why have we waited until now to sign a striker? For me, this is on Mikel Arteta and Edu. This is on those two, right? I think logically, Mikel Arteta is a smart guy. And that response there to that question from the Ghana blog is a smart response, right? Because it shows that you're well aware of the abilities of your squad. You're not overrating them, and you're not underrating them as well. So he's gone, I know these boys are not going to score 15 each next season. They're playing, they're wingers, they're, Odegaard is a midfielder. They're not going to give me these goals, right? And Gabriel Jesus as well, however much I really like him as a striker, he was never going to give you 11 goals with a campaign riddled with injuries. He was never going to do that. And I thought I was the only person who could see that. Mikel Arteta saw it as well. And I think the likes of Edu, if they didn't see it, then Mikel Arteta communicated that decision and communicated that worry to them as well. So let's dive into where Mikel Arteta actually made a mistake. This season, Arsenal are 13th in terms of scoring goals from open play. You know what I mean? Arsenal are 13th in terms of creating chances and finishing them, right? So if it's not penalties, if it is not dead ball situations, we are 13th, right? Passing the ball around and getting into the box, getting it into the back of the net through crosses, shots, and all that. Arsenal are 13th. Do you know what that means? That means that you're scoring goals, you're scoring less goals than 12 other teams in the Premier League. Hello, we are trying to win the Premier League. We are trying to be the best in this league, right? And Mikel Arteta, I think, he's got this wrong. He's absolutely got this wrong. Does he know the clubs we are fighting? Does he know the clubs we are competing with? Has he seen how good Manchester City are? Has he seen how Liverpool are scoring goals for fun? Like 5 against West Ham, 5 against Newcastle, 5 against this and that. Has he seen this? And then he has realized that his team will not keep up the same levels, and he has gone to the market and not sent a striker, and now he is complaining about how we finish in the boxes. This is on Mikel Arteta. It's absolutely on him. No one else, simply on Mikel Arteta. Now, mistake number 1, the signature of Kai Havertz. So when you watch this video, get time and go and watch the full video. It's on the different knock. I like his content. He's very, very, very analytical, and I think he's a very great guy. So what he's done there, he's highlighted the 2 ways in which Mikel Arteta could have solved the problems of goal scoring at Arsenal before the season started. Number 1 was getting in a number 9, and during the time you didn't have a clinical number 9 that was actually for sale that Arsenal could have signed. And I disagree with that. I think Marcus Thuram, not really very clinical, but if we are struggling to sign Borja Mayoro right now in January, then we could have signed Marcus Thuram on a free. He was going to AC Milan. If he was going to AC Milan, there could have been an option for him to join Arsenal. So that was mistake number 1. And that mistake actually comes from the fact that he had given Edin Ketia a long-term contract, and therefore, because you have Gabriel Jesus as your number 9 and you have rest assured him that he will get the minutes, then probably you can't get in Marcus Thuram as backup. You've just given Edin Ketia a big contract. So that was option number 1. You either sign a number 9. Option number 2 was to bring in a player who could facilitate these players, Martinelli, Saka, and Odegaard, to score almost the same number of goals, to facilitate them to get into better positions, facilitate them into becoming the players they were last campaign. And that is the reason why we signed Kai Havertz. Now, Kai Havertz is not a bad player, and if that is the role of Kai Havertz in this Arsenal team, we could argue he's not done very poorly. He's not actually done very poorly, because in the season, apart from Edin Ketia and Gabriel Jesus, no one has scored more goals than Kai Havertz in this Arsenal team in the Premier League. So we might question him, but there's so many more players to question than Kai Havertz in terms of scoring goals. Martinelli must be questioned, Odegaard must be questioned, Gabriel Jesus must be questioned, and all these other players. Because with Kai, he is Arsenal's 3rd most goal scorer. But then the question is, for me, this is the question. We decided to go for a facilitator who cost us 75 million. Randall Colomwani cost I think it cost PSG around the same amount of money. I don't think his price tag goes to the 80s. Goncalo Ramos, again, I don't think his price also goes to the 80s, right? I need to make my research on Goncalo Ramos. I'm not really sure. I did follow the transfer, but it was kind of a blip, and it happened somewhat too fast and very quick. But those 2 strikers, yes, PSV have the money and they paid more wages and all that, but the reason, the fact that PSG signed 2 strikers in one window with Kylian Mbappe still at the side, that is what explains the mentality of a top side and the mentality of a club like Arsenal, and where we are and where Man City and Liverpool and Bayern and PSG are at the moment in their respective league campaigns. I don't think we should have signed a facilitator, a player that helps Odegaard and all these other players around him to score goals at 75 million. Yes, that is the market price, right? That's the market price. The market is crazy these days. You're not going to moan about 70 million. You're not going to moan about 80 million. But look at the value we get from Declan Rice. Without Thomas Partey, Partey has played 4 games this season. And Declan Rice has managed to cover the space, putting 9 out of 10 performances every single game, every single week. And we actually do miss Partey, but not to the extent to which we miss Granit Xhaka. So for 75 million pounds, you can't sign a player and get worse. You can't throw 75 million pounds at a problem and get worse unless you're these two clubs. You're Manchester United or you are Chelsea. Because with Chelsea, they can spend 100 million on a position and it doesn't get better. They have spent over 300 million on their midfield and it is still as bad as it was. They have spent over, I don't know how much, money combined on number 9s, and they have never found the right number 9. So unless you're Chelsea, unless you're Manchester United, who are buying Sancho, Pogba, Ramadou Falcao, Di Maria, unless you're those clubs that do not have a clear plan when it comes to transfers, or they have a wrong plan, you cannot throw 75 million euros or pounds at a problem and it gets worse. You shouldn't be, right? So for me, that's what that was mistake number 1. We should have brought in a player like Gabriel Viega. We should have brought in a player like I don't know, someone for 35 million euros, someone for 45 million euros, if Mikel Arteta really wanted a player in that space. And I know he wanted a player in that space, and we needed a player in that space. So there's no question there. Mikel Arteta getting a replacement for Granit Xhaka, absolutely bang on, right? Really, really bang on. That was the right decision. But the player you bring in is a problem. The choice we made is actually a big problem. If we had brought in a striker and that striker scored 10 goals right now, we would be in a much better place. Just add 10 goals to our tally right now. We are in a much better place. So add 2 goals to the Aston Villa game that we lost 1-0. We win that game. Add 1 goal to the Liverpool 1-1 at Anfield. We win that game. Add 1 more goal to the Fulham game at the Emirates Stadium. We win that game. Add 2 more goals to the Fulham game that we lost to them at the Covent Cottage. We win that game. And add 1 or 2 goals to the Newcastle game, and we win that game. So our problem has been finishing. And Mikel Arteta, despite the fact that now he's acting so desperate for a number 9, he knew this problem, and he had 200 million, 200 good million, and he didn't sign a striker. And now he's reached in the middle of the sea. He can't turn back. He can't go forward, right? Because it's the first thing I've seen Mikel Arteta. It's the first time I've seen Mikel Arteta very, I would say, disoriented towards his team. He was asked, "Are you going to win the Premier League?" And he said, "The way we are playing now, the way we are affecting both boxes, the way we are trying to, score goals at the rate at which we are not scoring goals, we are not going to win it." That is a clear indication he knows the problem, right? He knows the problem. And even now, as he prioritizes a defender, he knows the problem. He has never said that we won't win the title if we are not actually defending well. He said we will not win it because of the way we impact and affect the opponent's penalty area. So for me, that was number 1. Kai Havertz was a mistake, not as a player. So I'm not trying to pick on Kai Havertz, but I think spending 75 million on him and spending another 35 million on David Raya, that was a mistake. 110 million would get you a good striker. I know Harry Kane would never sign for us, right? But Lautaro Martinez, maybe Lautaro Martinez this season, I said it yesterday, has scored a total of 17 goals in the Italian Serie A. He's 26. Imagine Lautaro Martinez at Arsenal. I'm not saying he would be the all goal scoring guy, but he's massively better than many of the number 9s in the Premier League. The only Premier League player right now that I would think would score more goals than Lautaro Martinez in a very organized setup like Arsenal's is Erling Haaland. So Haaland would beat Lautaro Martinez for me. I'm not going to lie about that. There is no other player, right? Maybe Salah. I mean, Salah is like a number 9. Maybe Salah. So that's what that's where he got it wrong. That's where he got it wrong. Lautaro Martinez, give him the money. If you're giving Kai Havertz and making him one of the most paid players at Arsenal, you've got to give him, you've got to give such money to Lautaro Martinez, right? So we know the problem. Mikel is trying to solve it, but we could have solved it earlier. We could have done the signings a little bit earlier, and that is where we are. That is Arsenal. This is Cossy Arsenal, and my name is Cossy. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well. I hope it was not too much of a rant. I'm kind of disappointed. I don't want to lie. I'm kind of disappointed. We have a brilliant manager, like really brilliant. A manager who can see that, listen, this season goals are going to come down. I don't think my players are going to keep this up. If he had made a right decision, if he had gotten a right player, we would be very far. Because there are not so many managers that are as proactive as Mikel Arteta. But can we sign a striker in January? I'm watching the space. And I'll be reporting whichever comes out there.